Welcome back to episode 2 of Behind the Lens Shorts. I'm joined by my co-host Quinn Murphy, all the way in New York City. And today, we have a pretty interesting topic, I think. Something that I've been asked before, and I'm sure, Quinn, you've been asked before, since we live in 2 major cities. But the topic for today is going to be, should you move to a different city? You know, if you want to be a videographer, photographer, creative, and you don't live in a major city, should you move to a different city to pursue your dream? You know, that's kind of the question for today. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm biased. I was born and raised in LA. Yeah. I still live in LA, but I travel extensively for work. I'm in New York like half the time. So I think you should. I feel like there's not going to be much for you to do in a smaller city. But that's just my 2 cents. I don't know. Quinn, what do you think?
Yeah, I think off the bat I would say yes, but like with everything, everyone's situation is different and it depends on your life and what you prefer and all that. But it's hard because we both have lived in the cities that we're in now, which so happen to be big cities. So I feel very fortunate to have been born close to New York City and it's filled with opportunity. But it also depends on the type of content that you want to make. Like, if you want to shoot big artists or really cool, unique events, that sort of thing, you'll probably have to move to a big city, right? Like, you're not going to find really cool, unique events and cool artists and people and that sort of thing in your city, most likely, if you're kind of from a small town. But if you want to shoot product videos, you could easily set up a studio wherever you are, and it's probably hella cheaper to have a studio where you are than a major city, and you can shoot from there and clients can ship you stuff. Or if you want to be a YouTuber, that also you can do from home.
Something that I did want to touch upon though with you, Quinn, is because you are so you're from New York, but you're not from the city of New York. You grew up an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
So what is that like for you? Were you going to the city every weekend or every week, or what was it? Because I think kind of you did have a smaller town experience. You weren't necessarily right, in the city. You're still kind of ways away. So what did that look like for you?
I grew up in the suburbs, and so when I dropped out of college to start making stuff, I was making stuff within my area. So it was very local friends and family, shooting kids' birthdays. I wasn't going to the city that much. And then slowly I started connecting with people in the city, and then I would literally commute, go shoot, commute all the way back home. To that point, it's important to take advantage of what your city does or town does have to offer. There's always local businesses. There's always friends. There's always things that can be captured. So if you're not making stuff and you're waiting to move to a new city to make stuff, don't do that. Do what you can where you are, so that when you do end up moving to a city, you have something to share with people and show people.
One thing also to consider is the idea of moving. It's super easy to just be I want to move to New York from North Dakota. I've been shitting on Oklahoma as my example for the longest time, so I'm going to choose North Dakota this time. So if you live in North Dakota and you want to move to New York, you also need to think about the cultural shift that's going to be, you know what I mean? You really have to prepare yourself for something like that, because growing up in Bismarck, North Dakota is not the same as living in Brooklyn, New York. You also need to really be introspective about where you are in life and understand if you are ready financially, mentally, physically, emotionally to do that big transition, And I think there's so much growth that comes from moving to a new city, but you got to understand that it's not all going to be sunshine and flowers, you know what I mean? It's really difficult and to an extent maybe even harder. I think it might be easier, like you said, if you want to be a YouTuber or you want to be a product photographer, videographer, you can literally do that from anywhere in the world. You don't need to be in one of these big cities, but there's so much toll that comes with the idea of moving. I think a part of me, even me, I grew up in LA, but a part of me has always wanted to live full time in New York, but there's something that holds me back. I don't know if I could even handle moving full time to New York. Like I mentioned, I'm there half the year most of the time, but living somewhere else is just like a whole different story, and I don't even know if I'm ready for that.
And I think connecting with people beforehand, before you make a move, like don't be afraid to like try and build a network where you are now by, reaching out to people who are based in that city. And also don't be afraid to like save up and like do some trips out there and line up some work, and do like mini trips to that city if you're able to and if your life aligns with it, and like build up some experience and network so you're not just like going in cold turkey. But how do you, like, I guess it could be cool to talk about New York and LA perspectives. Like if you were to move to LA, how filled do you think, like how much opportunity is there realistically? Like how hard is it to break into LA?
I'm assuming the majority of this audience is just like younger and is maybe on TikTok or Instagram a lot, and I think the perception on social media of LA is that you can move here and you'll immediately just like be an influencer or blow up or whatever. But then I've also heard like, so let's start with that. Like the idea of opportunity, like yes, there's a ton of opportunity. You have literally every industry in Los Angeles. You have entertainment, you have music, you have sports, you have fashion, whatever you would want to do here, like you can 100% do it. So that's the thing. That doesn't mean like you can just show up and it's like, oh, hey, like here's opportunity, like here's a job. Like that's not how that works. You still have to network and meet people, but it's just a lot easier to meet like-minded people who will present opportunities that you are interested in once you're here. The flip side of what I've heard of coming to LA is everyone's superficial, everyone's fake, you don't have real friends or whatever. And all the people that say that are people who are not from LA, people who are transplants. You come here, you start mingling with the wrong circles. Like people are just trying to like fiend for themselves and just like, climb the social ladder or whatever. So I have seen that, me being from LA, like I avoid that. I literally just hang out with my friends. I enjoy that comfort of like, I work in the influencer space and like all these different entertainment industries, but I've never had to worry about like having to like try to fit in with like kids who like are just trying to like be somebody and like they're not really trying to be your friend like that. Those are the two ways that I view moving to a city like Los Angeles specifically, but I've also spent a lot of time in New York, but I'd love your take, Quinn.
New York is obviously filled. I mean, there's always stuff happening. You have such a large amount of people in such a small space, so you're bound to meet and connect with people just going about your day to day. I would love to know if you think LA is more like film industry heavy versus like social media brand corporate, because I would say New York has a little bit more of like corporate side where you can actually work with like businesses and like startups. Like there's a lot of that here, and I'm wondering, as someone who's like, should I move to LA or New York? Do you think LA has more of that like film industry like structured standard, or do you think it's easy to like get started as like a freelance content creator?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I don't mean like within the film industry here. I'm not involved in the film industry, so I can't really speak to it a whole lot. But I mean, there's no secret that Hollywood is Hollywood, right? Like all the major movie studios have offices here. So there definitely is, like, if that's the route that you're looking to take, I think this is like a great place to do it. And you're going to find a ton of people who work on like documentaries or features or like, short films, things like that. So 100%, I think the aura here and just the energy is like, you can really do whatever you want. When I'm in New York, I feel like when I'm working in New York, the majority of the time it's really just like fashion work. I think that's like huge over there. But like anyone, like if you're looking at music or whatever, like anyone who's in New York is also in LA within the entertainment or celebrity space. So it's like, that's why and the weather's just better here. So I think that's just, I'm just rambling, but
the weather.
Yeah, but no, if you're looking to be in the film industry, I personally think LA is probably the place to do it. Or Atlanta is like the next big place. Like there's so many movie studios in Atlanta now. Like that's like a big movie industry town. So Atlanta arguably might even be better than LA and maybe a little bit easier, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, something that I did want to talk about within this concept is I recently had a mutual friend who connected me with a young man who lives in Portland, and he's a videographer, freelance videographer, but he's just getting started. But he just graduated from undergrad at the University of Texas, but now he lives in Portland, and he wants to be a full-time videographer and photographer, and he lives in Portland. So he set up a call with me just because he wanted to network and connect, you know, and like learn a little bit more about my career path. But like one of the questions for him was like, how do I do and work with the type of people that you're working with? And my blunt answer was like, you're not going to be able to do that in Portland. Like, Portland is a great city. Like, there's a lot of like things there. They have like a very heavy like sports scene and like music scene, but like you're not going to be working with the type of people that we work with in Portland. You know, like the opportunity is just not as abundant because that's not the main thing there. Like, I mean, you can potentially end up working with like Nike or like Adidas, which could be cool because they're based out of Portland. But like, I think within the bigger hemisphere of like entertainment or film, you're not going to find that in like most cities outside of like LA, Miami, or New York, in my opinion.
It's difficult and it's confusing, and the fact that it's so like location heavy is a hard concept to grasp, because you probably feel very like helpless if you're not born or living currently in the location where the opportunities are abundant. But like a quick note to that is always consider like editing. Like, editing can always be remote. I know a lot of people who hate editing, but if you're just doing it to kind of get some experience in that world, and if you like it, or, you know, if you want to connect with people, you can always be someone's editor, and that you can do from anywhere. So that could be a potential temporary or permanent solve if you want to kind of dip your toes into the industry and get started.
I didn't even think about that, but like, if you're an editor and you live in Bismarck, North Dakota, and you're really good at editing, like, DM me, because I'm always looking for editors.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Same.
And I hate editing, so like, please let me know, and that could be your first like relationship into LA or New York. So what was our answer? I don't even know what our answer was. Overall, you should move.
Overall, move.
Yeah, you should move. Like, it's
if you can.
It's if you can, 100%. Yeah, you know, not everyone is in the position to do so, but if you have always wanted to move, if you're going to college, like, that could be a great way too. Like, I remember, so I'm, like I mentioned, I'm from LA, but for a year, I went to the University of Oregon, which is in Eugene, Oregon, 2 hours south of Portland. It's a big state school, but A, I hated it, but B, I quickly realized, I don't want to build my network in the state of Oregon or in Portland, because I'm moving back to LA, like, after I finish. So I ended up transferring, like, I didn't even stay there. I transferred to a school in LA. But like, if you're in high school and you're like thinking about going to film school, which is a whole different conversation also, but like, wherever you want to go to undergrad, like, think about going to one of these bigger cities that you want to live in potentially, because like, you'll start meeting people, and it's just like an easy transition or segue from your hometown to undergrad to like adulthood, you know, in that city that you want to be in.
So yeah, I think that concludes this episode. What a fun one. A very complex one. Very complex.
So complex.
So complex. Yeah. As always. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we hope that you learned a thing or two. And start packing up your bags. Move. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, especially concerns, DM us on Instagram. We'd love to chat, start a little dialogue, help out however we can, and cheers.
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 Fire vibes. Sick.
Cheers.
Cool. Cut. Let's cut on that one.
Cut.
Love it. That was great.
That was good.
I might just hit it through. That's on my element. I like dark skins. Love a melanin. Talk, pushing in the tone. When I'm stepping in.